really comes down to communication and trying to make sure everything hums and works seamlessly and everyone within the company communicates respectfully with each other. It's been one of the biggest challenges. I think after a few years of really working hard at it, we're starting to get there. But it's something that I underestimated before.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumitech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with CTech. Hello, and welcome to another episode of 20-Minute Leaders. Today is a very special episode because we're talking about transformations and in ways that are very, very unexpected. Meet Jeff Shardell, the founder and CEO of Humble Brands Incorporated. During his career working in the high-tech corporate world, Jeff Shardell learned that the deodorant he used daily was filled with harmful chemicals linked to cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and other illnesses. He realized his body was likely absorbing these nasty chemicals and decided something had to change. Jeff wanted to see if he could make a truly natural deodorant that actually worked with as few ingredients as possible. After extensive research and a lot of trial and error in his San Francisco kitchen, Jeff stumbled onto a magic formula. Just 4 clean and simple ingredients would change the world of all natural deodorants for good. Not only was Jeff's formula made from ingredients found in his own kitchen, but it was more effective at naturally beating odors than anything else out there. Jeff Shardell, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders all the way from Hawaii. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Michael, doing well. Thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat.
We're going to have so much fun, Jeff. Such an unconventional journey filled with pretty much everything that I want to do in my life. That's what you're doing. And I think it's just pretty remarkable, both on the entrepreneurial level, but also on the humane level. And I'm excited to sort of unravel with you some of these incredible experiences, like business development at Netscape, original browser, of course, AOL then, and Google, a very early employee, transitioning to more different online things with cosmetics and Estee Lauder, and then transitioning to natural deodorants, and both with a physical relocation, but also an entrepreneurial relocation. So Jeff, how does this happen? Well, what's going on there? Walk me through this crazy journey of yours, transitioning at the end, Palo Alto to New Mexico and Hawaii.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I get asked that a lot. I spent, as you mentioned, most of my career living in the Bay Area, working in the tech industry, and last company I was at, as you mentioned, was Google. Loved it, had a great experience there, and when I left, I was ready for a life change. And the last year or two I was there, I traveled a tremendous amount, flying back and forth to London every couple of weeks. And when I moved to New Mexico, I was just trying to figure out ways to change my life, detoxify things a little bit. And one of the first things I discovered as I started reading about all of these external factors that we can control in our life is how bad traditional antiperspirants are for you. The connection between those and Alzheimer's disease and breast cancer and lymph node cancer and kidney disease, and the list kind of goes on. And so I tried the products that were out there at the time, the natural products, natural deodorants, and none of them worked well for me. And so I went and started mixing in my kitchen, started giving to family and friends, getting feedback, and I ended up creating my first version of the product, which I called Jeff's Pit Butter. This crazy caricature of my face on there, but it was really just kind of a tongue-in-cheek side project. And more and more people started asking for it. And then I ended up having a son about 6.5 years ago. And so when that happened, I decided to take things a little more seriously as far as the business as well, and rebranded to Humble Brands. And we've been growing the business ever since. We've got a company-owned facility in Taos, New Mexico. We make all of our products at our facility except our soap. But to your point, I never would have imagined that it would have gone from kind of internet dude to deodorant king but here I am.
I love it, and I love how you're mentioning deodorant dude and internet dude and deodorant king. I love that. Now,
Right.
Jeff, take me back to I believe 2009, and where are you at? You're mentioning that you're looking for ways to detoxify, and and you're becoming much more conscious about your well-being, both physically and mentally, and your surrounding. What is going on there?
Yeah, it really just kind of an awareness of I've always led a very healthy lifestyle. I've exercised. I've been very active. I've eaten well. But there as you get older, there are certain things that we can control and certain things we can't control. And so I just felt like let me try to control as many of the aspects of what I'm able to impact in my life as I can. One of the things that struck me though is even if you look at natural products that are out there, all natural products are not created equal. If you look at the ingredients list, many times you're going to see huge sets of ingredients, lots of extraneous ingredients, and not always the healthiest ingredients for you. And so when I was at Google, I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, and he would come through and one of the things he said that really stuck with me is most companies, when they develop products, they end up adding as many bells and whistles to the products as they can. And then they're left with this Swiss Army knife of a product that they launch into the market. Patagonia does the opposite. They strip out as many of the elements of the product as they can until they're left with just the core essence of that product that still performs the way it should, and then they launch that product. And I love that concept of simplicity. And so when I set out to create a better deodorant, I really incorporated that ethos into my development. And our products have simple set of ingredients, 4 set of ingredients: cornstarch, baking soda, beeswax, fractionated coconut oil. All simple, you understand what they are, safe enough to eat, and then we have essential oils that we add to it. And we've expanded beyond deodorant since then, but that same simple ingredient, healthy, good for you ethos continues through all of our products.
That first day, deciding that you're going to look for ways to change what I see on the shelf around me that is going to just harm my body. How does that where do you even start with in that moment?
Meaning,
How do you even begin something
how do
like
I
this?
actually, how do you go, how do you take the first step forward?
Yeah.
Yeah. They always say necessity is the mother of invention. And so I just started doing some research. I've always found that I'm curious about a lot of things. And so started trying to figure out what really causes the body odor that many people experience. And it's the bacteria that's created that grows in your body under your armpits and certain other parts of your anatomy. And my first push into this, I used baking soda to neutralize the bacteria that causes body odor, and that with a combination of cornstarch, which absorbs moisture, so you didn't feel really sticky. And it was just kind of those two powdery substances I put together and put on my armpit, and it kind of worked. But at the end of the day, I had like a loaf of bread under there, right? So I figured there had to be a better way than that. And so then I started playing around with different waxes and oils as binding agents, and I love to cook, and so just kind of for me it was a fun
Wow.
experimentation in the kitchen, and going over a 6 month period of time until I finally found something that worked.
How many iterations do you think you've done to find the right fit?
I would say 30 or more easily.
Oh my God.
And we're still
Wow.
always doing fine tuning at this point. We have a team of people now who will do the fine tuning. They've intentionally pulled me out of the kitchen, which is probably a good thing. The test lab, but yeah, probably early on, 30 iterations or so to get to the base product.
Fantastic. Now, Jeff, as you're growing the business and as you're now transitioning from, understanding in the journey, understanding that okay, you have something interesting here, something that is very valuable to humanity, not just appealing to a consumer, but it can actually improve their health. How do you go about thinking then as an entrepreneur now? Not you're coming from the internet side, and so you obviously understand commerce, and you've done it before with your own company. How do you go about thinking through building the humble brand?
It's a multi-pronged approach, and it's, as you said, using direct-to-consumer tools that we have out there, whether it's building our website and all the tools that we can bolt on and tap into our website to grow that business, working with other third-party e-commerce providers. But really, a lot of it has been it's been a grassroots effort. And so coming from the internet space, and you've spent a good part of your career in tech as well, we're used to, you launch a product in tech, and very quickly you see if it's going to be a success or not, right? If people adopt it, it's like, all right, we've got that hockey stick going in the right direction. We know that it's going to be a success, right? CPG brands are very different, and it definitely is something that I underestimated when I started the company. We've been around for 6 years or so, and we're in about 8,000 stores now, but it's taken a lot of work to get into those stores. And it was a grassroots effort of getting into a lot of independent retailers early on. And my feeling is a lot of times the bigger chains don't want to take a risk on a startup brand, and so it's hard to get into the big guys. But you go into the smaller, medium-sized chains; they're kind of the canary in the coal mine for changes that are happening in the industry. And so the bigger guys will look towards the smaller guys, the smaller independents, to see where the future is. And so we really put our energies into growing that side of the business, the smaller retailers to start with. And then we knew eventually the bigger ones would come, which is starting to happen now.
And for the end consumers, what sort of the validation process that you went through to understand how the public is perceiving this? This is something different than we're used to.
As far as just the product, you mean?
Correct.
I
Yeah.
think early on, the question I would get asked the most when I would try to push our deodorant is, does it work? And I
Mm.
think there was a lot of hesitancy towards natural products, thinking you had to have these chemically laden products in order for them to do what they should do. And I don't get asked that anymore, which is really interesting. And I think it's because people have kind of gone beyond, um, generally, people have gone beyond that concern that a natural product can't perform, maybe not 100%, but 90, 80 or 90% as good as what a chemical product would. So look, an antiperspirant, you don't sweat with it, right? It blocks your sweat pores, but that's part of the problem. And then you've got this entry point in your armpits for chemicals that you don't want to go into your body. So you may be, a little bit damp at times when you wear natural deodorant, but the cornstarch kicks in and the dampness goes away. So maybe it doesn't keep you 100% as dry as an antiperspirant does, but it's not going to be bad for you. And I think it's just that perception, though. So people have changed their perception over time that we can get a product that is just about as good as we've been using before, and oftentimes as good, and be happy with the efficacy and not be worried about putting chemicals onto and into our body.
So now, 6 years later, in the tech world, we're always talking about passion and motivation and chasing after. 6 years later, what are you still most excited about in what you're doing? Is it the entrepreneurial journey that you're on? Is it about creating this beautiful brand that people associate with? Is it just making people healthier? Which part are you really most motivated by?
It's two things. One is definitely building a brand that delivers a message of awareness, and awareness of, again, what we put onto our bodies is important as what we put in our bodies. But there are side benefits to building this brand that I hadn't really thought of before that I really enjoy. So one is creating jobs for people who oftentimes haven't worked in a more professional industry before. We've got 35 employees and growing as a company, and many people who work for Humble have been on board since the very early days. And so being able to provide exciting, meaningful employment to people is great. And then the other thing is we work with a number of charitable organizations through 1% for the Planet, again, an organization founded by Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia. But one of the organizations in particular that we work with is Charity Water. And we funded a number of wells so far with Charity Water, providing clean water to over 1,000 people now. And that's exciting. We take for granted living in these first world countries. You could turn the tap on and drink the water and bathe in the water, and you're not going to get sick. But 700 million people in the world don't have that luxury. And so if in some small way we can bring that luxury to people by planting wells, putting wells into these areas where people can get clean water, it's a wonderful feeling. And so those are some of the side benefits that I never really thought of when I started Humble.
I love it. And I want to continue with this, same line of thought. If you're going up 30,000 feet in a year and today you're looking back at this journey that you're on and the different transitions that you've made, what are some things that you've discovered about yourself or about, that everything around you that you perhaps wouldn't have known if you hadn't gone that route after working at Google and after being in the internet world for and doing some fantastic things there? What has this change made you realize either about yourself or about the world around you?
I always knew that we were all interconnected, but I think a lot of it comes down to that, realizing that kind of everything is interconnected. And boy, as far as changes of things that I hadn't known before, I think a lot of it though is coming down to, for me personally, doing things that I hadn't done before. Dealing with trademark issues, dealing with employee issues, dealing with things like that. When you work for a larger company, a lot of times you are shielded from that. And so when you have your own company, you're not. And it could be lonely too, to be honest. Their employee issues comes up. COVID 2 years ago, where we're questioning, is the company going to continue or not? The retailers are closing. You've got to be the cheerleader within the company to keep people excited. But secretly, sometimes you're kind of wondering if you're going to make it, and you can't always turn to the people that you rely to within the company during those times. And sometimes it's hard to find someone to turn to figure that out. So, in retrospect, in thinking about your question more deeply, I would say that's one of the big things. I hate to say lonely when you're running a company, but it can be sometimes. And so having solid people to turn to when things get difficult.
Right. What is the most challenging piece of this whole thing? I'm asking you some hard questions today. I'm sorry, but this is really fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's okay. The most challenging piece, I would say, it is creating a company where people work seamlessly with each other. So, again, if we look at all my tech career, it was spent with working with people in sales and biz dev and legal and whatnot. But with Humble, we've got that element, and then we have manufacturing as well. And so a lot of different personalities in all these different parts, and then you throw manufacturing personalities in, and making sure that things hum along the way they should. And email exchanges between people who are in the production floor and people who are in sales, it's amazing how quickly something can be misinterpreted. And all of a sudden, things can escalate. And these are situations that I didn't experience as much working in kind of just a pure tech environment. And so it really comes down to communication and trying to make sure everything hums and works seamlessly, and everyone within the company communicates respectfully with each other. It's been one of the biggest challenges. I think after a few years of really working hard at it, we're starting to get there. But it's something that I underestimated before, and I no longer underestimate the importance of that.
Amazing. Jeff, I really want to thank you for taking the time to sit here with me and to share with me, a little bit about your journey. I think it's just so fascinating, and I think part of it is because, like I said, I started off in the beginning. I am jealous in a lot of it, and I think especially this last part. And I think that I won't be surprised if I find myself at some point going after an endeavor like this, because I think that while it may be different and very similar in a lot of ways to our work in tech and the day to day, at the end, you can tell just how passionate you are, Jeff, both about the cause of what you're doing, about your personal fulfillment with it, about the journey itself. But what I'm inspired by, it's the intentionality with which you understand that you're having a strong impact on the lives of the people that work in this organization, that you care deeply about the interconnectedness of the people, the humble approach of the humble brand, and beyond all that, I just love the product, and I've been using it daily since I got it. So thank you very, very much for introducing it to me, and really, Jeff, thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy.